Good morning. This is Mark Sebastian, founder of OptionPit.com with the AM Pit Vol Report. Reminder, this is for educational purposes only. Consult your financial professional. Anything you do or say shall be your own fault. Again, consult a financial professional, educational purposes only. So, interesting day in the market. We're in kind of a little holding pattern. As we suspected, the S&P is backing off a little bit into the Federal Reserve. All right, we saw a big rally in the S&P last week, and now this week with Apple earnings and with the Federal Reserve's talking, we've slowed down a little bit and given away a little bit. Decent Friday, decent Thursday last week, which really pushed us higher. And then, just easing back a little bit. I think we'll probably back off toward 2050, maybe between now and tomorrow. Tomorrow, or when the Fed kind of comes out with their full statement and their full rate decision, that'll probably be tomorrow. Now, things that could change that path. The small fruit company called Apple has earnings tonight. Now, they just happen to be the largest company in the S&P 500 and the largest company in the NASDAQ 100 and in the Dow. So they absolutely could draw, although they're not the biggest mover in the Dow because the Dow is price weighted, but they're the biggest mover in the S&P and the NASDAQ. So Apple earnings could absolutely push things around. Really a weird day in Apple. It had a really nice run and then just got absolutely slammed yesterday to the tune of almost 4% on no news. I'm not sure what's going on, but if I look at the volatility, so let's just kind of look at implied volatility. And on a comparative basis, Apple implied volatility is higher than it was the last time we were here. Lower than it's higher really than the last two earnings, but lower than the January earnings contract, the January earnings cycle when we had that big earnings announcement. Right, that's the last time Apple earnings were this high in terms of volatility, and Apple was a little bit lower. All right, if I look at a 2-year period, well then we can definitely see that in terms of the trend, we are about as high as Apple implied volatility gets into earnings. So there is some serious belief in potential movement in Apple relative to times in the past. And let's talk about what they're expecting, what the market is pricing in for Apple movement. Apple around $116 right now. And the 160 straddle looks called 365 and 375 or so. So you're looking at about a $7.30, $7.40 straddle. So 6%. Nothing crazy. 6.5%. Just off the top of my head. So nothing crazy, but a decent sized move. And I would take the over if I was a betting man. And as many of you know, I am a betting man. So I would take the over. Today in the Pit Report and during our chat room, we're going to spend some time looking at earnings, coming up with some plays that maybe we like here at Option Pit for playing earnings. Now, looking at the VIX and the VIX complex, as you can see, the S&P is backing off, and we continue to see the VIX creeping itself higher, even as the VIX futures are pretty flat. You got January flat, December down a touch, November down a touch. So, VIX futures are off a bit, S&P is off a touch. I don't think you're going to see a lot of crazy movement today. I would expect today they'll look a lot like yesterday, tight range, low realized volatility, and some if VIX futures back off a little bit, there'll be some scoopers of VIX options. That's the way I see it. VVIX continues to hang around 100. That's the one thing that has really not moved back to kind of pre-market blow-up times. That plus the VIX is now hanging around above 15 and a half, above 15 pretty consistently. 15, 14 and a half seems to be kind of the dead set low for the time being. Finally, oil. Yesterday in the video blog, we talked about oil volatility. And, oil's off 2%. That's a nice move. That would be a 32 volatility. It's still into the mid-40s. So oil volatility continues to be extremely expensive and an area where we continue to look for opportunity to harvest premium. Okay, folks, if you've got questions, you can email me, mark@optionpit.com. You can call us 888-TRADE-01. You want to try out our services for $12. You go to optionpit.com/option-income. So optionpit.com/option-income. And you can try our debit and credit spreads 45-minute course for $12. That's 2 cups of coffee. Just go to optionpit.com/option-income. And again, reminder, this was for educational purposes only, and I hope everybody has a great morning.